Welcome to another edition of 49ers Live here at the Satellite Digital Media Studios here in San Francisco. Professor B here on this midday, a little past Saturday afternoon. We're about 9 minutes before the top of the hour, 2 o'clock local time. 49ers Live here on Niners Radio 49, part of the Satellite Digital Media News Network. So we got some stuff today. We weren't able to do 49ers Live yesterday because I had some other obligation to had some things to take care of. So we apologize for the inconvenience, but we will share the full from yesterday recap of Kyle Shanahan's presser from yesterday, as we'll take a look at that from yesterday, talking about the we'll be talking about that the preview of the game, and we will start that off, and then and a little bit later on, we're going to go back into time. We're going to have some Niners Radio 49 flashbacks from the past. We're going to look back at Week 2 from 1988, 49ers and the New York Giants at the Meadowlands. This was, of course, the Niners Super Bowl championship season of 1988. Week 2, a thrilling come-from-behind win. The Niners taking on the Giants. We'll also take a look back from 1990, 49ers and the Giants almost 35 years ago on that classic Monday night game. The two best teams in pro football, the two-time defending Super Bowl champion 49ers taking on the New York Giants in that classic defensive battle on Monday Night Football. And then finally, we take a look back at the NFC Divisional Playoff from 1993. It was on this January of 94 when Ricky Waters set a playoff record for scoring 5 touchdowns in the Niners' 44-3 rout over their bitter rival New York Giants at Candlestick Park back on January 15th, 1994. So we're going to start off with Kyle Shanahan's presser from yesterday. Then we'll talk to you in a few. So right now, enjoy this 49ers Live. It's Kyle Shanahan in his presser, and which begins right now.
What's up, guys? All right, injuries for the game. Brendel will be out. Yetur out. Bryce Huff out. Ricky Purcell out. Ben Barch questionable. Burford questionable. Sam questionable. D. Winters questionable. Brock Purdy questionable. Jordan Elliott questionable. Go ahead.
Well, this is the first time that Brock has been questionable here and not out. What does that mean as far as possible availability for Sunday's game?
That means he's got a chance to be available.
You have a chance to start?
No, Max going to be starting.
How do you draw you've discussed it's a delicate situation with the toe. You don't want to have it aggravated again. I mean, this obviously he has a chance to play, on Sunday. So how do you, balance that? Like, he could play, and that means he could aggravate it again. I mean, is his toe fully healthy?
What's the question? Is his toe fully healthy?
Well,
No, it's not fully healthy.
It's not fully healthy, so there's a chance, he gets out to play. So there's a risk with it, I guess. Obviously, there's a risk always, but there's a risk that he could aggravate it again.
Yes, I think you just answered your own question. Obviously, there's a risk with everything. But yes. Can you heard it again? Yes.
It's not fully healthy.
Yes. Yeah. No, he didn't get all the starter reps this week. That's, as soon as he had a chance to get through practice and stuff the first time, we let him get all those starter reps, and it was great. And then there was a chance he could re-hurt in the game, and he did, and he's been out for the last month. He's got more reps this week, but we weren't going to commit to all of that like we did last time. So I think it's easing him back more than last time. If that helps answer your question better.
I think so.
All right. You're welcome.
Did he get a lot of starter reps this week?
I want to say a lot.
Kyle, this defense is a little bit of a contradiction. It's an incredibly talented front, but they've got some really ugly numbers against the run. When you watch them on film, like what are you seeing? What does it look like to you?
I've seen some games where they've been really tough for us to run, and I've seen some really bad games, especially the one last week, just number-wise. You know, they busted out a bunch of long ones, so got away from them. I don't remember exactly, but I think it was like 250 yards. When you give up 250 yards in a game, that's going to make your stats really bad. 3 weeks before that versus the same team, I think they gave up about 75 yards and really were stout in the run game. So you can't give up the long explosive ones. I mean, the run game's always hit or miss, but when you get something like that, it's going to be a tough day. They also got up in the fourth quarter and were able to stick with the run. So there's always opportunities to run the ball every week, but they do have some real good players. They have a good scheme when they're all playing at the top of their game. I think they're very hard to run the ball against.
Arch and Burford about on the same plane in terms of being ready?
Is he what? Sorry.
Arch and Burford are about the same plane in terms of being ready.
I think Burford's ahead of Arch in that area.
Would you expect Ken White and Farrell to be playing?
Clee we'd have to activate, so we have that decision to tomorrow, but I expect Keon, yes. Chance with Clee.
Anything else, guys?
Is it for Furl coming in? You've only had him here for a few days. Did you see enough that he could be in the mix for an elevation on Saturday?
Yeah, see, I mean, when we're real low in numbers, so everyone has a chance. You know, we have guys that are questionable, guys that have been banged up, but also just separating that. You know, we're real familiar with Clee. He looked really good in all three of these practices, so if it makes sense for our 48, then no doubt about it.
Your observation of Keon this week and just how he's kind of come in and taken up the defense?
I thought he had a good week. You know, he got here right before practice on Wednesday. He was able to clear everything and get going, so he was able to make that practice, which I think was huge. And to get 2 full-speed practices in and the walk through today, I think was really good for him and gives him a chance to help us out Sunday.
Kyle, how would you describe Brock's frustration level with this injury? I mean, he's obviously wanted to have a big year for you guys, and this thing won't go away. I mean, what's he like behind the scenes? Is he despondent? Is he frustrated? How's he handling it?
Brock's a pretty composed guy, so he's not going to get real emotional either way in either situation. He's never going to get too up or too down, but I mean, just speaking for him, I know he's frustrated. Anytime you got stuff that you haven't had before that lingers, I mean, Brock is more frustrated than anyone that he can't be out there. So, you know, he's talked to a lot of people who have this, so I think a lot of people have warned him that this is the case, you know, so he understands it, so it's not just totally shocking him, but I think anytime you have something that doesn't go away, it's frustrating. I remember I'd sprained my ankle my whole life, and I remember I got my first high ankle sprain my 5th year of college, and I thought I would practice the next day because it felt better than the 10 regular ankle sprains I've had in my life, and I kind of walked for like a month and missed a whole month of football, and it's just, you don't really get it. It just lingers and it doesn't go away. And I haven't had a toe injury, so I can't totally relate to it in that way. But people who have, it sounds very similar, if not a lot worse, when you're dealing with turf toe compared to something like that. So something he's dealing with, but I know we're getting closer.
There are quite a few interruptions in Watkins' timeline.
And
Number
who's?
of injuries. Jordan Watkins, his timeline's been just kind of disrupted by injuries. What has the process been getting him back up to speed every time?
I think that's the hardest thing for rookies. I mean, it happened to Mikkel. I'm in training camp. Jordan Watkins, he had a real good OTAs, and he got hurt in that first preseason game, which, you know, I thought Jordan really needed the preseason to fully get ready, and I think he would have been, but he missed all of it from there. Then I think he came back, week 2, can't totally remember. And then it's almost like he's right back to the beginning of training camp. So you hope he can get that in a couple weeks of practice. He started to do it, and then he hurt something in those 2 weeks. I think he pulled something. Then he got another month back, and so now he's getting back into it. But it's tough for these guys. Same thing happened with Ricky. I mean, he missed all of training camp as a rookie, and then right when he came back, he got shot. And then it's a month off, and then he's playing the kind of whole season. Is kind of like a rookie training camp. So it's real tough when those guys miss it. Puts him really behind the 8 ball, but he's had 2 good weeks, and hopefully he can continue to stay healthy. And if he does, he'll get there. All right, guys. Thanks.
All right, that was Kyle Shanahan talking with the media. That was yesterday. Videos, that video courtesy from 49ers.com. If you check all the latest news on 49ers news and so much more, go to 49ers.com. So right now we're going to get ready to we'll have this quick timeout. When we come back, we're going on our Niners radio flashback and take a look back to week 2 of the 1988 regular season. The Niners taking on the New York Giants at the Meadowlands out in New Jersey. Niners taking on the Giants. These are the two of the week 2 matchup, and we'll and footage, of course, roll-in footage is all courtesy of NFL Films. Let's take this quick time out. Professor B here at the Satellite Digital Media Center, News Center, Broadcast Center in San Francisco. You're watching 49ers Live on Niners Radio 49. We'll be right back. All right. We continue on Niners Radio 49. Just a reminder, if you want to watch a series called Cut the Different, it's a series presented by Gillette, the official shaving partner for the San Francisco 49ers that come on every time on 49ers.com. And it's a series where familiar players with the Clippers and Walls listen. The series creates organic, unfiltered environment where athletes speak freely about their pressures, families, personal lives, centering the authentic dialogue. The series naturally bridges over personality, storytelling, border mental health themes, allowing players to open up topics like stress, expectations, identity, resilience, and growth. The barbershop serves as both cultural staple and a safe space, offering viewers a rare, intimate perspective of the human side of professional sports. The goal isn't captured for honest moments, to moralize dialogue around the emotional well-being, and to remind all fans, even at the highest level, athletes can carry a story by far beyond the field. So this is a good. We aired that last the other day, and we have. Hopefully, we can try to air some more of these episodes. If you want to watch it, in case you missed it, Kendrick Bourne was on the first episode. We're going to hopefully try to air another one again. All video courtesy by 49ers.com and the San Francisco 49ers, as we're showing this as a courtesy clip that we're not, as the personal side to get media access through and beyond all platforms. So that was a good segment. If you missed it, you could catch it on 49ers.com. So let's try to get to some other 49ers news on the injury side of the team as we're getting ready for and it starred J.T. Soriano, Tavon T. Maltzberry, and Donald P. Long. So this is some behind-the-scenes stuff. We're going to hopefully try to do some stuff later as the season goes on. And check them out on 49ers.com. This is some good stuff. So just a reminder, the 49ers will take on the New York Football Giants, the G-Men, renewing this rivalry. We're going to take a look at all the stories of who's questionable for this game. As Brock Purdy, he is listed as questionable as he was limited practice. Kyle Shanahan did say yesterday in his press conference on Friday, Purdy, most likely Mac Jones is going to probably start and Purdy could be listed as the second or at the very least an emergency quarterback if possible. Other few injuries, Jake Brendel with the hamstring, he will not play. Ben Batrock, and Spencer Burford both are listed as questionable. Ricky Pearsall with his knee, he will be out and he will miss his fifth consecutive game. On the defensive front, the Niners will be without Yatir Gross-Matos with the knee and hamstring. Bryce Hoff, hamstring, both will not play for Week 9. Defensive lineman Jordan Elliott, ankle. Sam Okinawa, ankle. Linebacker D. Winters, all listed as questionable heading to Sunday's game. The team continue to evaluate their recoveries. So here's the list again. Batrock with the ankle, questionable. Brendel is out. Burford is questionable. Both Burford and Elliott questionable. Yota Gross-Matos, he is out. Both him and Bryce Hoff both out. Okinawa questionable, probably going to be at absolute game time. Ricky Pearsall, he's going to be out. Purdy is questionable. Both Purdy and Winters are questionable. 49ers will continue to monitor players as the report. Final decisions will be on game day. Availability will be announced approximately an hour and 30 minutes just prior to kickoff in East Rutherford, New Jersey. So, as we continue on 49ers Live, just a reminder, coming up next Sunday, 1 week from tomorrow, the 49ers take on the Los Angeles Rams, a rivalry renewed. That will be at the Mecca at Levi Stadium. 1 week from tomorrow, kickoff time will be at 1:25. That will be part of the Fox doubleheader next weekend, and the kickoff time is at 1:25. And I believe the top team, assuming it's going to be it will be Burkhardt and Brady. Kevin Burkhardt, Tom Brady calling it for Fox Sports, the number one team, along with Aaron Andrews and Tom Rinaldi with the action at the Mecca at Levi Stadium in Santa Clara 1 week from next Sunday. You can purchase your tickets at 49ers.com or Ticketmaster.com. Ticketmaster is the official ticket provider for your San Francisco 49ers. So let's continue on Niners Radio 49ers Live. Professor B here at the Satellite Digital Media Studios in San Francisco. We will now take you back to the 1988 Week 2 regular season. 49ers taking on the New York Giants. This was a big deal back for all you 49er fans who grew up in the late 80s, early part of the Niners of the 80s, 90s generation. Yours truly. I'm 48. will be 49 about a little less than a month from now. The Niners and Giants rivalry were big back in the 80s and through the early 90s. The Niners and the Giants in the 80s, I believe they hooked up in five times. They hooked up 5 times in postseason play between 1981 through 1990, and the winner of that matchup of the Niners-Giants playoff game would have gone on to go on to advance and go on to win the Super Bowl. And you look at this point, the Niners beat the Giants in the divisional playoff back in 1981 divisional playoff at Candlestick Park, 38-24. A week later, they beat the Cowboys in that thriller at Candlestick that sent the Niners to their first Super Bowl victory over the Bengals. They did it again in 1984. Well, at that time in 81 was Ray Perkins was their head coach. In 84, this time it was Bill Parcells was the head coach. And the Niners beat the Giants 21-10. And the Niners defense dominated the Giants all afternoon. The only few blemishes of that game, Joe Montana throwing a pick six, intercepting and returned by the veteran Harry Carson. He returned Joe Montana's pick six for a touchdown. But other than that, the Niners really dominated. The Giants never again crossed midfield and was shut out in the second. It was a defensive struggle in the battle in the second half, and then the wild card game, December 29th, 1985. The Niners played the Giants again. This time in the wild card playoff, and it was this time the Giants got full revenge, beating the Niners 17-3, and at the big ball wrecking crew. And this time it was at the Meadowlands. The Giants won their first home playoff game in 23 years, and then of course the Giants would lose to the Chicago Bears in the NFC divisional playoff a week later to the eventual Super Bowl champs, one of the most dominant defenses in the divisional playoff in the NFL. And then a year later, the Niners are playing the Giants again in the playoffs. This time, the Giants just did a beatdown on your Niners, 49-3, and of course, the Niners who had injuries, and Joe Montana, who was out till mid-season of '86 with that back injury, came back, and then we're in the playoffs. Remembering he connected with Jerry Rice, it looked like it was going to be a touchdown, but then Rice loses the football. The ball goes into the end zone. The Giants recovered for a touchback, and that was all she wrote. And it went downhill from that point forward. Joe Montana would get knocked out of that game with a concussion as he threw the ball to Lawrence Taylor, who was the NFL's Defensive Player of the Year and the league's MVP, returned it for a touchdown. Montana gets knocked out of that game with a concussion. And the Giants beat the Niners 49-3. The Giants were on their way to win Super Bowl 21. They would beat the Redskins in the NFC Championship game a week later at Giants Stadium. And if I'm correct, I think the Giants beat the Redskins 3 times that year. They swept them in the regular season and beat them twice, and then they beat them in the NFC Championship, and they go on to beat the Broncos in Super Bowl 21. Then they hooked up, 1990. And then, of course, the Niners lost a heartbreaker in the NFC Championship game in 1990. The Giants went on to beat the Bills in the Super Bowl. Then, there's just so many great memories. So, without further ado, we're going to go to week number 2, Niners and the Giants. This was week number 2, September 11th, 1988. Niners taking on the Giants, an early game. Week 2, this is a matchup of 2 of the pro football's finest teams during the 1980s. And we're going to show you that highlight video footage courtesy by NFL Films, and which it begins right now.
The Niners next traveled to the New Jersey Meadowlands, site of 2 previous playoff defeats at the hands of the Giants. With less than a minute to play, wide receiver Lionel Manuel scored to give New York a 17-13 lead. And another 49ers loss in the Big Apple seemed likely. But on 3rd and long, San Francisco came up with the most dramatic score of the young NFL season. In a relief role, quarterback Joe Montana fired his best pitch. Wide receiver Jerry Rice was there to grab it. And the course of a season was altered in one astonishing moment.
Third down. Montana to throw. Throws long for Rice down the sideline. He's gone to 30, to 20, to 10. Touchdown 49ers. A 77-yard touchdown pass to Jerry Rice. Boy, and it has stunned the silence here in the Meadowlands.
San Francisco's shocking victory added to the excitement and anticipation that came the following.
All right, that was an incorrect one. The final score of that game was Niners 17, Giants 13, a thriller. I think I remember coming home from church and because it was an early game. It was an early afternoon. They got the early window that weekend. I watched some little bit of the highlights. Calling that game, by the way, was veteran broadcaster for CBS, Vern Lundquist and John Madden. It was week 2 of that season. I believe Vern Lundquist was filling in for Pat Summerall because, Pat Summerall had his other commitments. He was doing the U.S. men's and women's tennis championship finals across the Hudson River in Flushing, New York. And traditionally, he always missed the first 2 Sundays of that. He was doing the telecast of the U.S. men's and women's U.S. Open tennis championships in Flushing, Queens, New York. And the Niners, it was Vern Lundquist with the call. John Madden, the Niners came from behind to win that game. Steve Young started that game but struggled. But Bill Walsh kept his ace in his sleeve, in his back pocket. It was that 3rd and long play when he threw the Montana connector to Jerry Rice for a touchdown and a big win over the G-Men at Giant Stadium. The come-from-behind victory, and that was the first of many in that season for the 49ers who, started the season 2-0. At one point, they were 3-1 and then had an up-and-down year of inconsistency. And, of course, through the first 11 games, the Niners were 6-5, and their chances of making the playoff was definitely uncertain, and a lot of uncertainty where the Joe Montana would be in San Francisco, a lot of uncertainty with Bill Walsh, and the Niners came out of it after they were 6-5. They go on to beat the defending Super Bowl champion Redskins on that Monday night. John Taylor had the punt return for a touchdown. They would go on to win 4 of their last 5 games. They would win the NFC West. They would get their revenge on the Vikings, who handed the Niners that disappointing loss the year before in the playoffs at Candlestick on New Year's Day of 1989. Then they beat the Bears in the cold in Chicago to win the NFC Championship, and then they head to Miami and Montana Magic again when he connected with John Taylor. The Niners would go on to win their 3rd Super Bowl of the decade, 20-16 over the Bengals, and Bill Walsh walked off in retirement in his last game as a 49ers head coach. And that was a season I will never forget as a young kid growing up at that time. The Niners, no doubt, was the team of the 80s. Now, there were some other games, in 1989, they beat the Giants on a Monday night. But this was another game I remember from the 1990 season. The Niners and Giants were the 2 best teams. They both coming off losses to their divisional rivals. The Niners ended up losing to the Rams the week before. Then it was the Giants losing to their divisional rival, the Philadelphia Eagles, down the Jersey Turnpike at Veterans Stadium in Philadelphia. So these were 2 teams coming in with a 10-1 record, the 2 best teams in pro football playing at the stick on a Monday night game, and it doesn't get any better. Remember watching that game as a 13-year-old. At that time, I was in the 8th grade, junior high. It was one of the game. It was the game of the year. That was some hitting, a lot of punishment that night at Candlestick Park. And now we're going to go in our next Niners Radio 49 flashback. We're going to take it to Niners and the Giants from December 3rd, 1990. Niners playing the G-Men, a.k.a. the Big Ball Wrecking Crew, out at Candlestick Park. And it was a Week 11 matchup. We're going to share you that footage, and let me cue it up. Here we go. So enjoy this clip. Niners Giants from December 3rd, 1990, about 35 years ago. That classic defensive battle on Monday Night Football.
And it was a Monday night encounter against the Giants that provided San Francisco's defense with its finest hour of the season. Rebounding from their first loss of the year, the 49ers unleashed a wave of defenders that pounded the Giants. The Niners continually crossed up the Giants, who never crossed the end zone. Fittingly, the defense had the last word in a 7-3 victory.
Sims back to throw, steps up, starts to run, tackles, Megan's got him! He is down, the game is over!
On this night, the Niners proved that mounting the best defense was truly a matter of honor.
All right, that was another classic Monday night game. The Niners won it 7-3, and I think I remember John Taylor's touchdown reception was the only touchdown of the game. That night I remember that was a street ball fight. That was street ball football that night at Candlestick Park. The winner of that game, of course, knowing that was going to have the inside track of having home field advantage throughout the playoffs. Niners improved their record to 11-1. The Giants, and they handed the Giants their second straight loss. So they went to 10 and Niners went to 11-1. Giants went to 11-2. The Giants went into a little bit of a funk after that 2-game losing streak. Then they end up losing a Saturday game to the Buffalo Bills and would be a preview of Super Bowl 25 at home to the Buffalo Bills at Giant Stadium. And I think that was the game Phil Simms left with that suffered a foot injury and missed the rest of the season, and that bring in their veteran bullpen ace Jeff Hostetler, who would make a name for himself going into the playoffs, and of course later on with the Raiders. And then, of course, the Niners and Giants played in the NFC Championship game. It was an emotional time in this country 35 years ago, of course, with the Persian Gulf War, and so much emotion. The Niners played the Giants in another classic battle, defensive battle, and it was the veteran it was Joe Montana getting knocked out of that game by Leonard Marshall, and then Roger Craig fumbled the ball, and the Giants got that ball back, and then eventually, they end up marching right down, and it was Matt Barr, the veteran, hit the game-winning walk-off field goal. He was a perfect 5 for 5 of the day for the field goal that sent the Giants to the Super Bowl, and the Niners denied them of a date with destiny to try to ended their hopes to go for a three-peat. So that was another game, and then the Giants, of course, a week later defeated the Buffalo Bills 20-19. Scotty Norwood misses a game-winning field goal that would have gave the Bills the Super Bowl. Buffalo will be the first of 4 straight losses in the Super Bowl from 90 to 93. But that was really the last hurrah of that Niner Giants rivalry. And of course, after that Super Bowl, Bill Parcells stepped down and kind of went on and took a little bit of a break from coaching. And then the Niners and Giants, both teams went through a period of transition. Steve Montana would miss the 91 season with the elbow injury. Steve Young would assume role as the starting quarterback, and then that rivalry kind of really disappeared. But in 1993, 3 years later, they hooked up again in the NFC divisional playoff. This time they were coached by former Denver Broncos head coach Dan Reeves, and this is a team now in transition. Lawrence Taylor now is at the tail end of his career, on what would be a Hall of Fame career. He would come in and be their head coach, take over for the New York Giants. That they were a team going through a lot of changes with their personnel and transition, and the Giants taking on the Niners from January 15th, 1984 at Candlestick Park. This is total different teams now with Steve Young as the quarterback. We'll see what we're going to show you the highlight of Ricky Waters. This was a divisional playoff game from January 15th, 1984. We're going to show you that highlight right now, just a moment.
To themselves and to the New York Giants.
All day long. All day long. Let's just kick that butt all day long.
But before the defense got to work, the offense got down to business and began by running the Giants ragged. Jerry Rice and John Taylor set the table for Ricky Waters, who gathered crowd support with 39 total yards on the opening drive.
Young with a handoff to Waters. He walks into the end zone. Touchdown for San Francisco.
We're just getting this party started. We're just getting this party started.
Was this a defense that couldn't play at a championship level? Well, the New York Giants spent an afternoon asking the question, and the 49ers answered loud and clear.
They were knocked all week long, told that they couldn't tackle, they couldn't stop anybody. How many times can you tell that to a defensive team before they say, hey, watch this?
Remember what I told you? Woo! You keep on slapping our defense in the face, that's what happened when you slap 11 grown men around.
The 49ers' offensive line opened up gaping holes, and Ricky Waters blasted through them for 118 yards. Time and again, his runs led to New York's doorstep. Once there, he was treated as a welcome guest.
Handoff to Waters into the end zone. Second time today. Touchdown.
Welcome being over, baby. It's your baby.
Speed, we got to get back. Jet blanket, we got to get back. Okay? That's all. Just executing would be all right. Handoff. Ricky Waters into the end zone. His third touchdown of the day. Can't give him anything else. All right, this is it. This is it. We've been here before now. This is it. Handoff to Waters. Sweeps to the left. Finds the hole. Cuts in. Brings to the end zone. Touchdown 49ers. 4 touchdowns for Ricky Waters. A playoff record for San Francisco. Waters to the end zone. Touchdown Ricky, number 5.
Showing no mercy, the defense left the Giants with nothing but 3 points. And when Mark Logan plowed through for the Niners' 6th touchdown of the day, San Francisco had served notice that their future is as bright as their past. There will be no rebuilding phase for the 1994 49ers. The foundation for the future is, and always will be, solidly in place, as the team of the 80s continues their grand tradition of excellence on through the 1990s. They are among the elite teams in all of sport, and the torch they carry will be passed on by these champions, these keepers of the flame.
That was a wild one back in 1994. The Niners went on to win that game 44-3 over the New York Giants, getting some kind of revenge from that heartbreaking playoff loss in January of 91. In that playoff out at Candlestick Park, denying the chance for the 49ers to win that third straight elusive Super Bowl. And we're going to take a look at the final stats of that game. Ricky Warriors had a day, set a playoff record with 5 touchdowns. The Niners scored 6 in the game, and they clearly dominated that. So taking a look in some of the numbers of this game, Ricky Warriors, 24 carries, 118 yards, scored 5 touchdowns. He caught 5 balls for 46 yards. He ended up all in throughout that game. He had 164 total all-purpose yards and set a playoff record for 5 touchdowns. Mark Logan had a touchdown rush himself. So the Niners end up winning that game. Then, of course, a week later, unfortunately, they lose to the Dallas Cowboys in the NFC Championship again, as the defending Super Bowl champion Cowboys beat the Niners down at Texas Stadium, and the Cowboys would go on to beat Buffalo to defend their crown to win back-to-back Super Bowls in Super Bowl 28 down in Atlanta. And by the way, for the New York Giants, that would be the final for the Giants. That would be for both Phil Simms and Lawrence Taylor, their final games in a New York Giants uniform, that they would go on both to retirement. And that was the last great moment for the New York Giants. And then, of course, they would meet again in the playoffs in 2002 in the wild card game. Yours truly was at that game when everybody left and thought the Niners were going to lose. I stayed there and watched history. They were down 38-14. The Niners would score 25 unanswered points to win that game. 38-14, win 39-14. T.O. and Jeff Garcia. And that would, of course, that game in contrast for two teams, they went total opposite ends of the spectrum. The Giants, well, for the 49ers, that was a week later they would lose to the eventual Super Bowl champion John Gruden Tampa Bay Buccaneers down at Tampa. Then a week later, then a few days later after that game, the Niners and Steve Mariucci, Mooch ended up getting fired. And that was the beginning of the end for the 49ers, and they would not return to postseason play for nearly a decade, while the New York Giants went into a kind of a tailspin for the next few years, and then Tom Coughlin took over in 2004. They would win a division title in 2005. They would win. They had their improbable run to the Super Bowl in 2007 where they knocked off the New England Patriots. And, then the two teams hooked up again in the playoffs in the NFC title game. I was there at that game too. Heartbreaker in Harbaugh's first year to the Giants. Giants would go on to beat the Patriots again in the Super Bowl to win their second Super Bowl in 5 years. Well, that's going to do it for this edition of 49ers Live. Professor B, I'd like to thank all of you for watching today. And I'd like to thank you for watching. And check us out on all this content, youtube.com/@NinersRadio49 in case you missed this episode today. And then we'll be 49ers Live post-game immediately following the Niners and Giants. We'll be going on the air right after 49ers and New York Giants. We'll be live somewhere in the city. We'll probably be back at the Keys Yard Pub. We'll do post game, and then and then we'll have our post game coverage, and then after that, we'll have 49ers Live Monday night edition right after Monday Night Football. We'll have Monday night edition of Monday Night Football, Monday edition. Hopefully, the Niners get the aftermath, and then we'll have regular programming, and then we'll get you ready for 49ers and Rams later next week. So, for the latest news on 49ers News, go to 49ers.com and NinersRadio.com or Facebook.com/@NinersRadio49. And please click the subscribe button. That's how we're going to get more viewers. Thank you for attending or watching this edition. And by the way, one more thing, FYI, a reminder tonight, those of you around the West Coast in the Pacific time zone, all around in the Central Eastern time zone, please, we move our clocks 1 hour back tonight. That's right, we go 1 hour back tonight, get that 1 extra hour's rest, and be rest and ready for game day right first thing in the morning. Niners and Giants, 10 a.m. The game will be on CBS, part of the CBS doubleheader, and then the late window, it will be the Bills and Chiefs in Buffalo. That's the, late window. That will be on CBS. So that's it for now. Professor B signing off and wish all of you a very pleasant, enjoy the rest of your afternoon. Enjoy the final full day of daylight savings time. It ends today, the last day of daylight savings time, because we move backwards. The day is getting shorter, and some good old cold evenings lie ahead upon us. Thank you for watching 49ers football, 49ers Live on Niners Radio 49, in association with the Satellite Digital Media News Network, where every team has a fan, and every fan has a voice, the network home of champions. Wishing you a very pleasant good afternoon, everybody, and stay safe.